In 1966, Walt Disney, the man who changed the entertainment industry forever, was in the process of filming the announcement of his last great dream, a city of the future he called the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, EPCOT for short. Disney wanted to completely reinvent the city by creating an emphasis on new technologies and new ideas in urban planning, in the hopes of creating a better city. Walt Disney said that, quote, everything in Epcot will be dedicated to the happiness of the people who work, live, and play here. Close quote. A lofty goal, and if anyone was going to achieve it, it would be Walt Disney. But the enthusiasm he had for the project masked a grim reality. Walt Disney was dying, and it was a race against time to get Epcot off the ground. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve, and welcome to All Things Architecture, the stories behind the architecture and the people who created it. This show is brought to you by Architecture by Design, the blog celebrating the best of architecture. Now, on with our story. As he grew older, Walt Disney grew concerned about his legacy and the world in which his grandchildren would grow up in. He worried about the decay facing the American city and wondered if there was anything he could do to correct the problem, such as finding a cure to urban sprawl. At the same time, Disneyland was being recognized as one of the best examples of urban development in recent memory by both architects and developers. Developer Jim Rouse brought up the success of Disneyland as an architectural and urban development during a speech at the Harvard School of Architecture where he said, quote, if you think about Disneyland and think of its performance in relationship to its purpose, its meaning to people, more than its meaning to the process of development, you'll find it the most outstanding piece of urban design in the United States. Close quote. This made Walt seriously consider the possibility for his company to design a city. After all, maybe all their knowledge of building Disneyland would help them make cities better designed and more livable. Prior to Epcot, Disney proposed other communities. For instance, he envisioned an American version of the Bauhaus with his City of the Arts complex as a part of the newly formed CalArts School. He also envisioned a City of Tomorrow in Palm Beach, Florida, next to an East Coast version of Disneyland. None went past the drawing board. However, his ambition for a City of Tomorrow would travel to Central Florida and be part of a larger Disney World project beginning in 1964. Supported by the Magic Kingdom theme park and a vast industrial complex, Epcot was going to be a human-scaled community where new technologies were always on display. He researched everything he could about urban planning, architecture, and emerging new technologies. He consulted with friends like architect Welton Beckett and William Pereira and the aforementioned developer Jim Rouse. Walt also read a lot. He read books like The Life and Death of Great American Cities by Jane Jacobs, but by far the most influential was the 1964 book The Heart of Our Cities by the father of the modern shopping mall, architect Victor Gruen. Gruen, much like Disney, feared what urban sprawl was doing to the vitality of America's cities. Gruen proposed creating within suburbs smaller communities centered around a bustling hub, often an indoor shopping mall. Apartments and office buildings would surround the bustling mall, creating a strong community center within the suburbs. Gruen proposed his own City of the Future for Washington, D.C. in 1964, and for his redevelopment of Fort Worth, Texas. Both proposals would inspire Disney as he and his team created Epcot. Working closely with Walt was Imagineer and architect Marvin Davis. He was responsible for designing the layout of Disneyland and was now responsible for creating the master plan for Epcot. Like Disneyland, the 10,000-acre city would be laid out in what is called a radial plan, or a hub-and-spoke plan. All the functions of the city radiated out from a central core. Think of Paris, France, or Ebenezer Howard's Garden City. The 50-acre heart of Epcot would serve as a downtown where residents could shop comfortably along streets themed to various exotic locales. A resident would also be able to catch a play or a movie here, just as Gruen envisioned. And like Gruen, Walt also planned to enclose the entire 50-acre downtown under one roof.
This was based on research saying that residents would be more likely to visit during Florida's unpredictably wet weather. On top of the roof would be various office buildings that would serve the various technology companies that would have regional offices at EPCOT. It would be on the roof of the downtown where residents would also find the icon of EPCOT, the Cosmopolitan Hotel. Like Disneyland's Sleeping Beauty Castle, the Cosmopolitan Hotel would be the visual icon for the city. It was designed by architect George Rester from Welton Becket and Associates, and the modern tower features two convex forms culminating with a striking spire some 30 feet above the city. While the Cosmopolitan Hotel rose above the downtown, beneath the hotel and downtown, underground, was a network of roads for cars and trucks. Returning to ground level, and on the edges of the enclosed downtown area, would be a series of high-density apartment buildings. Unlike the typical faceless modernist apartment complexes like Pruitt-Igoe, each apartment building was unique and human-scaled with balconies and terraces that overlooked the city's expansive greenbelt. Speaking of the greenbelt, sharing with the ideas of the Green City movement, Walt wanted a massive greenbelt that would act as a central park for the city. All of the major recreational activities, schools, and churches were located here. There were also plans for a community center and even a small amusement park reserved for residents. Beyond the greenbelt, looking like the petals of a flower, is the low-density residential district, the suburbs of EPCOT. While the typical suburbs, expanded, unchecked, EPCOT suburbs would be carefully planned. There would be less of an emphasis on private backyards and more on the large parks that were behind every house. The houses in EPCOT would be designed in a mid-century modern aesthetic, similar in the style to the Eichler homes by Cliff May and A. Quincy Jones. They were designed to allow for old technology to be swapped out for new. Each house in the neighborhood would run off of a form of renewable energy. Getting around EPCOT would be seamless. Transportation was one of Walt's greatest fascinations. There were two main modes of transportation at EPCOT, the monorail and people mover. Both modes of transportation would radiate out from the central transportation lobby in the heart of downtown and be powered by clean energy. Monorails would link EPCOT with the greater Disney World complex, taking residents to their jobs at either the Magic Kingdom or the industrial complex. The people movers, a system based on Goodyear's Carveyor prototype, would branch off from the transportation lobby to the downtown area, then the apartment buildings, greenbelt, and finally to the low-density neighborhoods. There was no need to worry about train schedules with the people mover system because it was always loading. And all these modes of transportation made owning a car in EPCOT rather pointless. There's just a quick look at EPCOT. Now, if you visit Walt Disney World today, you won't find a city of the future, but rather a collection of theme parks and hotels. So what happened? Why didn't EPCOT get past the drawing board? One event changed everything. About 2 months after he made the film announcing his vision for EPCOT, on December 15, 1966, Walt Disney died of lung cancer. His final hours were consumed by EPCOT. He made sure to tell every detail of EPCOT to his brother and business partner, Roy, all the while being confident that he would recover and get back to work on EPCOT. He wasn't going anywhere until EPCOT was finished. He told his son-in-law, Ron Miller, that if he had 15 more years, he could get EPCOT built. But it wasn't meant to be. Following Walt's death, there was plenty of discussion about what to do with EPCOT and the greater Disney World project. The reality was, there were too many questions unanswered, and too many things still to figure out. Many wondered how residents would actually live within the city. If they were permanent residents, they would have voting rights and would be able to possibly stop any changes Disney might want to make to the city. Walt once proposed having EPCOT be a short-term residential community with no one living more than 6 months at a time. Not a great idea if you're looking to build a strong, lasting community. While the urban planning and architecture were well thought out and would have worked to create a better city to live in, the constant need to stay ahead of innovation and the struggles with residents made EPCOT a challenge Walt's successors were not interested in tackling. EPCOT was Walt's dream, not the company's.
Had Walt lived a few more years, no doubt would he have discovered solutions to these challenges, and EPCOT would have been built. But with Walt gone, EPCOT didn't have a champion. And the sad part is, who knows what would have happened had Walt lived. Maybe it's possible that Walt Disney, the man who seemed to make any dream come true, might have created a city that gave people a better way of life. A place where a great big beautiful tomorrow was just a dream away. Thank you for watching. I'd like to give a special thanks to the original EPCOT project. If you're interested in learning more about Walt Disney's vision for EPCOT, head on over and check them out. And while you're at it, if you liked this video, consider liking and subscribing for more fascinating stories from the world of architecture. Also, be sure to visit arcbydesign.com and follow us on Instagram at architecturebydesignblog. Thank you again for watching. I'm Steve, and I'll see you next time on All Things Architecture.